Welcome back to Mr. B's class. Today we're going to be looking at integers now, and more specifically multiplying integers. So the first thing you're going to look at is our student outcome for today, which is I can apply a sign rule when multiplying integers. Now we're going to do a little bit of a review on the next page here. So when we look at integers, we know that they are always either positive or negative. And we're going to look at two rules that are going to apply for us throughout the rest of this unit. We've got to remember. These are very important, so make sure you write these down. The first one is the product of two integers with the same sign is always positive. And what I mean by that is if we've ever got a positive number multiplying by another positive number, because they're both the same sign, it is always going to be positive. And the same thing goes if we've got a negative number multiplying by a negative number, it is always going to be positive. So no matter what, if you ever see the same sign multiplying by each other, it is going to be a plus. You ever see two negatives multiplying or dividing by one another? It is always going to be a plus. And then that's where the second rule comes into play, which is the product of two integers with different signs is negative. So the same kind of idea here. If you've got a negative number multiplying by a positive number, it is always going to be negative because they are different signs. And the same goes for if you've got a positive multiplying by a negative number, it is also always going to be negative. And this will apply for the rest of this lesson today and throughout the unit. So with those two rules in mind, let's try our first example. So we've got a positive 3 multiplying by a positive 4. So the first step to solving this question is we're going to apply the sign rule. So when we look at it, we've got a positive multiplying by a positive. So we know here positive times positive. We know the same sign is always going to equal positive. Now, once we know what our sign is going to be for our answer, let's take a look at our second step, which it just says multiply. So we've got 3 multiplying by 4. That gives us 12. When we combine both together, our positive and our answer, we get plus 12. And this, all we have to do is apply the sign rule and multiply. Fairly simple process. Let's try another one. Here's example 2. We've got a plus 2 multiplied by a negative 9. So that is the first step we're going to do again is apply the sign rule. Well, when I look at the top there, I've got a plus multiplying by a negative. So according to that sign rule number 2, if it is different signs, it is always going to be negative. For the reason that there are two different signs. The second step says we're just going to multiply. So if I write that down, we've got 2 multiplying by 9. That gives us 18. And when we combine our negative in with our answer, we are going to get a negative 18. And we've got our final answer. So let's move on, and you guys can try some for yourself. So the first one here, we've got a negative 5 multiplied by a positive 6. So what you can do right now is pause it here, and then hit play when you're ready to look at the solution. Okay, so step 1 always said we got to look at our signs first. Well, we've got our one sign there and our one sign there, so we've got a negative multiplying by a positive, which, as we know from the beginning, a negative and a positive are always going to give us a negative. So now we know no matter what, our final answer is going to be negative. Then it says all we have to do is multiply. So we've got a 5 and we've got a 6. 5 times 6 gives us 30. So then our final answer down here is just going to be negative 30. Let's go on to another one. So for this one, we've got a negative 6 multiplying by a negative 4. Now again, you can pause it here and hit play when you're ready to watch the solution. Okay, so first step says we've got to take a look at our signs. So you got a negative and a negative. So negative multiplying by a negative. The sign rule says that two signs that are the same are going to give us a positive. So we know that no matter what, our answer is going to be a positive answer. And the second step just says to multiply. So we've got a 6 multiplying by a 4. That is going to give us 24. And we know our final answer then will be positive 24. Now let's move on and try one more here. Now this one is a little different than the other ones because now I'm going to get you guys to some problem solving. So there's not just a question for you to solve here. You've got to read this problem solving question and then go from there. So let's try it together. So we've got Tina supports her favorite charity with an automatic deduction of $35 a month from her bank account. That means that every month the bank is taking away $35 out of her account to pay for a charity. It says, what is the total of her deductions in 1 year? When we look at that, remember that is 12 months in 1 year. So what you can do right here, if you're feeling confident, why don't you pause it now and then hit play for the solution. And if you're kind of confused right here, just follow along right now and we'll go through it together. Okay, so we're going to look at this question now. Now we need to make ourselves a multiplying equation here. Well, when we look at it, we know we're dealing with 35. And because she's losing the money, it's being taken away as a deduction, we're going to represent that 35 as a negative 35 because she's losing the money. The next number we're going to deal with, we know that it's per month, which means that in 1 year, there's going to be 12 months. So we're going to represent that with a positive 12 because we're not losing months, she's actually gaining them because it's going up counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 12 to make 1 year. So now we've got our two integers ready to go. Because we're looking to see how much she's going to lose in 1 month, we're dealing with multiplication because it's going to be 35 per month and we're going times 12 months. Now we've got our equation. Now all we have to do is follow the sign rules. So when we look at it, right here we've got a negative and it's being multiplied by a positive. According to our sign rule, a different sign is always going to be negative. So right now, we know that our answer is going to be a negative number. The second step says we have to multiply. Well, 35 multiplied by 12 gives us 420. The last step is just to put that down here because we know it's negative. And our final number is negative 420. That means in 1 year, Tina will lose $420 from her account to donate to charity. So it's being taken away from her. And that's it. It's just the biggest thing about this question is to make sure you understand that the idea that a deduction is negative. So she's losing that $35 and the 12 is positive because we're not losing anything from that. We're actually counting up and it's going positive. And that's the idea there. And that's it. So I hope this helped. If you guys are still a little confused about multiplying integers, take a look at some of the videos below that are made by far superior people than I am and take a look and then give the assignment a shot. Thanks.